Hey everyone, it's Nicole for Saturday Storage Solutions, and today I'm going to talk about stamps and die storage. This is something as stampers that we probably all have a ton of, and I'm just going to share some things that work for me, what I'm using, and I have gradually over probably the last year or so switched all of my stamps over to this system because it's nice and uniform. What I use is I have some magnetic sheets. These are actually from Ellen Hudson. I used to do it differently, but these are already pre-cut. So I use those, some clear plastic storage pockets, and then the inserts. And then I have these clear storage bins. These are the InterDesign bins. If you follow Jennifer McGuire's blog, you've probably seen these. I didn't come up with anything new. I completely copied that. They actually fit really nicely on shelves that I have in my office, and I love that I can stand them all up and flip through them. The white inserts are all from A to Z dividers, and I'll talk about those here in just a little bit. And then, of course, I use my label maker to add labels to all of the pockets. And I am not only storing my stamps this way, but I store my thin framelits steel dies this way as well. So everything is very uniform. Everything is in the same size storage pockets. I don't use any of the smaller ones with the smaller inserts or anything like that. I use all the same size, and part of the reason for that is because it's very easy to flip through them that way. And I noticed with the shorter ones, I would not see those because they were down so much lower than the other ones. So for me, this just works really well. So those are those magnetic, sheets that I was talking about. And then my label maker, of course, from Brother that I'm using, the P-Touch. And I have a whole bunch of Mama Elephant dies here. These are actually from the last release. And then what I'm going to be using are these little wire cutters. These are from Elizabeth Craft. And then the little files, also from Elizabeth Craft. So if you ever have had trouble cutting apart your metal dies, which a lot of them you can bend back and forth and easily cut them apart. If you cannot, because some of them have so many of those little pieces holding them together, wire cutters are excellent, and these are perfect because they are made just for us die cutters. So I like to use those to snip apart my dies, and then the files, you can file any of those little rough edges down and it makes them completely smooth. I didn't think I needed those, but I really do like them. There are some dies that no matter how close I get to them with the wire cutters, I cannot get those little bumps and nubs off, and sometimes they will leave a mark in your paper when you're die cutting. So I really like those little files for filing down any little sharp points. For my for labeling, I have used the 1/4 inch paper quite a bit, but I've kind of transferred all over to the 1/2 inch paper, and that is for no other reason than I didn't like switching back and forth. Excuse me. I would use the 1/4 inch for all of my stamp sets, and then anything I wanted to label, like the outside of the containers or the dividers, I would use the 1/2 inch, and so I was switching back and forth all the time, which is super easy to do, but I was just kind of lazy, so I didn't do that. Now here I have gone ahead and created a couple of labels. You can see by using the 1/2 inch, I can do 2 lines of text, and it's pretty large, so it's really easy to read. And what I did was there were several dies that were kind of scripty with this Mama Elephant release. So I did several of them on one magnetic sheet inside of my plastic little sleeve here. I like to get as many labels out of my cartridge as possible. So instead of having it feed after each label is typed up and printed, which would allow you to cut it with the little cutter there that comes on the machine. I instead have them feed really close together and then just snip them apart with scissors. This just saves extra paper. Now, like I was saying, these dies do not come together as a set. There's actually 3 separate scripty words. To save not only supplies but space, if I have dies like this, I usually group them together in like dies. So these are all scripty words. So I'm going to go ahead and put all 3 of them in that package. Because when I'm looking through my dies, I usually look for things in certain types, like whether it be frames, borders, word dies, certain shapes, maybe hearts or something. So I just saved space. I also have grouped together a bunch of borders. Now for my stamp sets, I put an insert inside of those Avery L clear pocket inserts. You could also use the Simon Says Stamp inserts. And I tuck them inside. I put the label on. If there's no coordinating dies, I don't worry about it. If there are coordinating dies, I will show you here what I do when I have one of those. So I'm going to go ahead and skip to that. This is one of those magnetic sheets from Ellen Hudson. Now, Ellen Hudson has their own clear pockets, and I do like them. They're a little bit thicker, which I really like the thickness. The only bummer is that the inserts that are pre-cut that I get for the Avery L pockets are a little too wide, so you have to trim off about 1/4 of an inch to fit inside their clear pockets. So you might want to keep that in mind, that you might either want to go have white cardstock cut specifically for those. They're made to work with the backers, so if you're using the backers that come with your stamp sets, you will probably be fine. I like to kind of keep mine uniform, and I pitch all the backers and just stick the cardstock inserts in. Again, for me, I love the uniform look that they all have that white cardstock inside, and then the stamp set and a label. Now for the coordinating die set, you can see it is on the back of this stamp set. So anytime I have a coordinating stamp, or a die rather, that goes with a stamp, I stick those inside of the same pocket, only on the back side. It keeps them together. It makes it really easy to find. Now, do you see how they're falling off? I did this on purpose because I wanted you to see there's a right and a wrong side. The right side that's magnetic kind of has these little lines on it. It's almost shinier, and you can see when I get the die near it, it sticks right to it. So make sure you get the right size. Now I'm showing that you can go ahead and use some adhesive to attach that magnetic sheet to the white cardstock if you want to. I love none of those dies fell off, so it definitely makes a huge difference which side you use. Or you can just stick the magnetic sheet inside. I went ahead and adhered these for whatever reason. I'm going to say 95% of the time I don't do that. I just don't take the time to add any adhesive to the magnetic sheet and stick it to the cardstock and stick it inside the pocket. I just slide that magnetic sheet right inside and away we go. Now this is another die set. You can see this is where those snips come in really handy. All of these teeny tiny little dies were inside one of these long, tiny, narrow, thin tags. If you don't use snips, they can be a real booger to get out. So this is just really nice. I used to use my Tim Holtz scissors, and I found I was dulling them and kind of ruining the blades. So, and it was a little bit hard to get them to cut every once in a while. They would cut through, but I love those scissors, and I didn't want to run the risk of ruining them by using them to cut apart my dies. And the investment in these little wire cutters was well worth it, I think. I have used them way more than I thought I would, so I definitely wanted to share those today just in case it would help anybody else. If you have the same issue and you use a lot of dies like I do, these little wire cutters are great. So that about covers it as far as how I store my stamps, my coordinating dies with the stamps, and even my individual dies. Anything thin like this goes in the clear storage pocket with a backer sheet, a magnetic sheet if it's needed, and then I label it. Labeling it is key. That way I always know what I'm using. It makes it easy if I'm submitting to a publication, if I'm creating it for my blog or a class, I'm able to easily know what I've used. Next, these are some of the new Simon Says Stamp dies and stamps from the Valentine's release, and I have already put these all in their pockets. They all look really nice. I'm going to kind of sort them out and talk about putting them in the storage containers and with the dividers. And I found these dividers after much searching because it took me forever to find what I wanted. I didn't like the colored ones. I wanted white, I wanted plastic, I wanted heavy duty, something that would stand up to me flipping through them. These are actually DVD or CD dividers that I found, like that they use in music stores, which I know most of us probably download our music now, so these might be kind of, I hate to say obsolete, but definitely not as available. And I found them on a website called A to Z Dividers. I've linked to them below the video here and also on my blog. I think they're about 50 cents per divider, but they perfectly fit in these clear Inner Designs storage containers that I use, which are also linked to. Plus, they stick up high enough that you can put a label on them, and it's very easy to sort and flip through them to find what you're looking for. Now, background stamps that are large are a whole different issue. These are big background stamps. Simon Says Stamp has them, My Favorite Things has them, Impression Obsession. Those are just to name a few. They cover a big background, so they're generally about 6 by 6, maybe a little less. And they are not going to fit in those standard clear pockets. But I still have some of those. Plus, I still have a few clear stamp sets that are larger than the more standard 4 by 6 and under that we see from most of the manufacturers. What I do with those is I have a little bit wider interdesign storage bin. It's the same depth, so on the front on my shelf they are all very flush, but it's a single unit and it's a little bit wider, and I keep anything that is bigger in this bin. And the Pretty Pink Posh dies really could go somewhere else, but because they only do dies and not stamps, I keep them in here. Just for my mind, that's easy and I know where to look for them. So I do about the same thing. I am still going to put these in a clear storage bag with a backer and put a label on them. However, the storage bags I'm using are they're a little bit thinner, and Simon Says Stamp does sell these. They are a little bit bigger than 6 by 6. And instead of trimming, I've trimmed down cardstock to put as backer paper in these bags, but a lot of times I'll just use the sheet that comes with the stamp set and I'll trim it down. It's already nice and sturdy. And then I'm going to take my background stamp and stick it down here in the bag. This one was sticking a little, so I did trim down the clear plastic sheet that it came with, and I'll put that on the front of my stamp. It just helps it slide into the bag a little bit better. These bags are thinner, so I find that they might be a little trickier to fit a stamp into, but again, I like the uniformity of having all of my stamps in bags like this. It makes it very easy to flip through. It gives me somewhere to stick the label so I know what I'm looking at. And then here is the storage bucket that they go in. Again, I have those same dividers. They're nice white dividers. I'm a big fan of the white dividers. A big label there so it's easy to see what goes where. Here are some larger stamp sets that I've put in those same storage bags, plus some other random storage sets. So that is my stamp and die storage. The supplies I've used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thanks for watching.